I'm afraid I still want
What do you mean, you look at the person?
Yeah, I keep looking at you lot.
I know.
If I do this, am I now looking at you guys?
Yes, it's really difficult. The way to do that, Dawn, is to move people up to the top, so then you're looking up at the, you can drag them up to the top.
Oh, is that better?
Yeah.
Is that a little better?
Yes.
Marvellous.
And then at least you're looking
in the right direction.
Yeah. Hi everyone. We've already got tons of people joining us. Lovely to see you. We're going to kick off in about 2 minutes, so just make yourself comfortable. And actually, while you're waiting, everyone, if you just want to put in the chat section who you are and where you are and what you're doing at the moment, then we'd love to hear from you. Oh, soon. Hello, Sophie Middleton, first person to reach us. Yeah, I'm a bit nervous about this.
That's amazing. That's wonderful. When did you get invited to that?
Well, it's a kind of quid pro quo, because Baroness Qureshi, who's really amazing MP in Bolton, who does a lot of stuff around diversity, invited me to do it, and I said I would do it on the condition that she does our masterclass. So
nice. like your style.
Exactly. So yeah. And we've got, you know, the broadcaster Adea Depitan, he's coming in a couple, the wheelchair basketball player, so he's doing it in a couple of weeks. Brilliant. And then we've got Robert Peston, who's being interviewed by one of our alumni, Kishan Korea, doing one in also July. So there's lots going on. It's exciting.
Good. Wonderful. Brilliant.
Yeah. So,
and our yesterday was good.
Yes, really good.
Yeah, we should have a follow-up about that.
Definitely. How's life? Is Corrie back up and running now, Lauren?
Well, that's the North team that do that, but I believe there's movement on that. Yeah. So yeah, I'll leave that in their capable hands. But everyone's missing the soaps, aren't they?
Exactly.
It's a staple, isn't it, in the evenings? Yeah.
I thought they were about to run out of episodes, but hello. We're so thank you to everyone that's saying hello on the chat. It's nice to meet you all. Lots of students, current interns, people being furloughed. So if you want to just pop on the chat who you are, it's lovely. It'll be lovely to hear from you all. But I think we will actually kick off, if that's all right with you guys. So I expect that more people will join us, but that's fine. I'm just gonna close this so I can. It's slightly disconcerting having the chat open while you're talking, because
I know it's hard. It would be really helpful if Monica and Vanessa could help field some of the questions to us.
Yeah, they will do. They will definitely.
Yeah, just because I don't want to. It's easy to miss people because there's so many.
Yeah, we don't want to miss anyone. Yeah, but we will rest assured. We'll give your email addresses at the end as well.
Yeah, definitely.
We'll always get back to you. So.
All right, so I'm going to kick off. Hi everybody, my name's Josie and I am one of the founders of Creative Access. It's lovely to see you all. I may have met some of you before. We are especially excited today because we've got two of our oldest and best friends joining us today for our Thursday workshop. So some of you may or may not know that actually Creative Access is housed at ITV. So we have a very special friendship with ITV, and we are really, really grateful that Lauren's given up her time to talk to us today. She'll tell you a little bit more about Possessed and what she does at ITV Entertainment. And also Dawn, who is really part of the Creative Access family that has been with us since the outset. She's on our advisory board. She delivers all the training. Lots of you will have met Dawn. I can see Ife popping up here. Hopefully you've met Dawn at your last induction. And both of these guys have a massive wealth of knowledge around television, from factual to entertainment and all sorts, and they've worked in the industry themselves, and they will introduce themselves. I just wanted to say a couple of housekeeping rules here. Lots of you are introducing yourselves in the chat, which is lovely, and it's really nice to see where you're from. Hi Lola. But if you have a specific question for either Lauren or Dawn, please do so in the Q&A, not in the chat, because that's when it come up. And if you haven't got questions but want to see who else has put them there, you could upvote their question if you want to hear, if you think, yeah, that's a good one, I'd like to listen to the answer to that. So that will pop up to the top. So please do that. And if you're not already following us on socials, we are recording this, but do keep an eye and tag us on Instagram, which is @_Creative Access, and Twitter @_Creative Access, and we'll make sure that we tag all of this crew too. I'm going to stop talking there, but just a massive thank you to Lauren and Dawn. I know that it's a really tough time at the moment, but television is still one of the most popular careers. So we're all looking for some words of wisdom from you guys. And thank you again for joining us, both of you. Over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Josie. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for tuning in to listen to us. And hopefully we'll be able to give you an insight into the world, the wonderful world of television. And we'll both kind of introduce ourselves and sort of tell you a little bit, start off by sort of telling you a little bit about how we got into TV, because I always find that the most fascinating part, people's stories into how they sort of break into TV, because they're always really different. So, and all of yours will be really different. So that always fascinates me. So we'll just start by doing that, and then I can obviously share, and we'll both share with you about what our current roles are, and then obviously we'll take some all your lovely questions after we finally stop talking at you. So I can introduce myself first if you'd like, Dawn.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, cool. So I'm Lauren Evans. Hello, everyone. I'm the talent manager for ITV Entertainment and Possessed. Many of you might be thinking what Possessed is. Obviously, ITV Entertainment and Possessed. Possessed is another company within ITV who we crew up for. They make shows such like Five Gone Rings and Cash Trapped, and they make lots of fun, wonderful game show type of shows. And ITV Entertainment, we look after hopefully lots of shows you may be familiar with, but it's all the sort of shiny floor entertainment stuff on ITV, like I'm a Celebrity, Dancing on Ice, The Voice, obviously Love Island, and we've got the Royal Variety and the Soap Awards. So it's a real, and sort of a few more that I'm sure I can't list every single one, but yeah, we're very, very busy department. And within ITV Entertainment, what we do as a talent team, I think is really important to tell you what a talent team is, because not everybody knows. I know I certainly didn't when I was at university. I had no clue who to reach out to and where to go, so I would have loved things like this when I sort of finished, when I was sort of trying to break my way into the industry. But essentially what we do in our talent teams is crew up for shows. So we meet lots of wonderful talent, from runners up to exec producers. We regularly meet new people, and we place them on shows and essentially get them jobs and get them work. And it's just super important for us, and what we do in our roles is just to make sure that the who is obviously getting through ITV's doors is it's a complete mix. We want to introduce new talent always to the department, because that is what really keeps the department and the shows fresh, brimming with new ideas, and keeping the shows popular. Because essentially with it's the talent that make the shows so successful. So it's our jobs to make sure we get people like you to come in through our doors, and the next generation of TV talent, if it's kind of entry level, is kind of where you're at, or yeah, it's just to make sure we've got a good selection of people, and new talent is what we're always striving for. So that's what I kind of do in my role. And I grew up in ITV Entertainment. So those shows I mentioned, I look after solely the editorial roles, from runner, researcher, AP, up to producer, series producer, and exec producer. So that's my kind of role in a nutshell. But talent teams are your go-to people for when you're trying to break into the industry, get advice, CV advice, and everything like that. So that is kind of what we're here for. And I suppose I can just tell you my story, really, of how I got into the industry. And And I know Dawn's, we've had a conversation, and it's just fascinating what Dawn's story is as well. Our stories are quite different, but and as I say, that's the exciting part of knowing, because everyone's story will be different in how they get into TV. But my sort of background, and just so you all know, is I studied at the Brit School of Performing Arts. So I always had a real interest in people and sort of the creative and sort of the entertaining people, I suppose, whether it be on stage, behind the scenes. I've always had a real interest in it from a very young age. So I knew I really wanted to follow that kind of path. So I studied at the Brit School, I did musical theatre there, as well as an A-level in media studies. So I always kind of kept my toe in, kind of very, familiar with cameras and things like that. I sort of quickly realised maybe the whole West End world wasn't for me. I decided quite quickly that maybe I wasn't going to be a West End star. After kind of applying for drama schools and things like that, I thought, no, I really want to get into television. So I applied for a media degree at the University of Sussex, studied there, and then I did my degree. And it was actually during my time at university that I actually came across a Facebook post from somebody who I knew at the Brit School, and it was a friend of their friend who were looking for day runners and work experience to be come and help on the very first series of Britain's Got Talent. And the X Factor back in the day, like early series. That's showing my age a little bit there to you all, but really early days. And I was at university in my final year, and my holidays were coming up. So I applied. I said, I'd love to get some work experience. My friend put me in touch, and then I got a call from the production manager, which I was overjoyed about. And I really couldn't do enough for them. I sort of went down on my days off and then in my holidays. And that's sort of how I got into Thames Television, where I made lots of cups of tea. I went through all the applications, which were all sort of paper applications, filed everything away, and I used that time to really network with the teams, meet as many people as I could during that kind of, it was an amazing opportunity. It was super exciting, going into London, and it's sort of making my face known, and I really couldn't do enough for the team or for anyone. I'd always put myself out there and offer my services if I could be of any way, any use, which it did put me in good stead. And at the end of my degree, I got called to be a production runner for the wonderful show Hole in the Wall, which some of you may or not know. But that was my very first sort of production runner job. And I suppose the rest is history. It's sort of built on from that, really. And I kept working at Thames and sort of grew up through the ranks as runner up to researcher and shows like Take Me Out, Family Fortunes, lots of different shows. I did Big Brother. I was a producer then on Love Island, and it was last year I then moved into talent, and here we are. So that's, sorry for rambling on, but that's my story. But I'll hand it over to Dawn now, and she can tell you her fascinating story as well.
Thanks, Lauren. So my name's Dawn Beresford. Nice to meet you all virtually. I might have met some of you already, I'm hoping, on the Creative Access induction training. So I am head of talent at CPL Productions. I've been there for coming up for 8 years now. CPL make A League of Their Own, Married at First Sight, There's Something About Movies. We have a joint venture with Harry Enfield called Knit Television, and another joint venture with Ben and Rom, which is Rangaby. So we make basically a mixture of factual entertainment, studio shows, panel shows, and some comedy entertainment as well, and a bit of scripted. So that's CPL. I'm also talent exec at Arrow International Media, and that company umbrellas two kind of wings. So there's Arrow Pictures, headed up by John Smithson, and there's Arrow Media, headed up by Tom Brisley. So Arrow specialise in specialist factual. They make everything from true crime to sort of adventure, travel, natural history. So Arrow Media make Body Cam, See No Evil, American Monster. Arrow Pictures did A Year of British Murder, Sherpa. So yeah, lots. So between the two companies, they're not actually related, but I work basically part-time at both companies. I've got somebody who works full-time with me, Julia Hardwell at Arrow. And at the moment, I'm on my own at CPL. But what's great for me is that basically means that I kind of cover all genres, if you like. On top of that, I also, as Josie said, I've been involved with Creative Access since the very beginning. So I now, I'm one of their trainers, so I go out and I deliver employer training, lots of diversity and inclusion training and allyship training to our employer partners to help make those places feel more inclusive for when you guys are working in them. And I also help deliver some of the induction training. And I also mentor all of the interns that we take at both of the companies that I work for. So my journey, I did a business degree. So I remember really being into the idea of journalism, and at 16, I'm going really, really far back now.
I love it.
I went to work on the local newspaper for my work experience week, and I was really bored. I've got to say, it was the local, you know, I grew up in Kent, and I was quite uninspired, I will be honest. So I kind of went off that idea. I thought, okay, business, I'm going to go and do a business degree. At the end of the business degree, I thought, oh God, no, actually, I don't, you know, what is, I don't want to do that. And luckily, I went to see a careers advisor at university and remembered my love of journalism, and sort of said, you know, I am really interested in journalism, and I'm interested in maybe the BBC. And luckily, he had just been to a seminar in Manchester that talked about actually people hitting a glass ceiling. And the feedback was, well, actually, if you didn't have a postgrad in journalism, then you were going to hit this glass ceiling. So, you know, maybe I should look at that. So I applied, and I went to the University of Central Lancashire and did a postgrad in radio and television journalism, which was great. It was a year. But the best thing about that course is that you had to do a work placement, and they made you you had to organise, you had to do it on your own, but you had to get a placement in radio and a placement in television. You were meant to do the radio one first, then the TV. I am aware it was a long time ago, so, you know, but nonetheless, I still think the sentiment is the same, because essentially, and I tell people, I advise people that I'm mentoring or anyone that kind of talks to me that wants advice, you know, I basically thought, right, well, what's the show on TV that I love the most? And at the time, and I'm going to date myself, it was a show called Rough Guide to the World with Magenta Devine.
Yes.
And I loved it. It was a travel documentary series, sort of, you know, going all over the world, talking to young people, finding out about what the issues were in their countries. And lo and behold, I basically got a letter back going, a letter? No, yeah, it certainly wasn't email. It probably was a blooming letter, saying, yeah, you can come for work experience. So actually, I was meant to do the radio one first. I'd organised some work experience at BBC Radio Cardiff, and suddenly, but Rough Guide to the World said, but you can only come for these dates. So I then had to get on the phone and rearrange my radio placement, and I went off to the BBC, and the series producer at the time, who became a good friend, and I know her really well now, sort of, I was like, oh, I'm available for longer than 2 weeks, if that's helpful. And she was like, no, 2 weeks is all you've got. Anyway, 2 weeks came and went, and I thought, oh, they haven't told me to leave. Okay, I'll just, I'll keep making the tea. And like Lauren said, I was literally making the tea.
Yeah.
Post run. It was made out by Janet Street Porters department, youth and entertainment features at the BBC, you know, and I would be the lowly person who'd have to go up to her scary office, no offence, Janet, but then like deliver the post, sort of quaking in my boots. Anyway, needless to say, basically I befriended the production manager and ended up staying. They ended up offering me a runner's job, and actually I hadn't finished my postgrad, so I then had to organise that I could go back to sit the exams and hand in my dissertation. And I remember at the time really kind of feeling like, oh, is this the right thing? Because friends of mine were getting offered jobs in radio as radio presenters, or, you know, local radio reporters, which to me sounded an awful lot more grand than being a runner. But I just thought, you know what, actually, I'm going to go for this. And I suppose the moral of this story, if there is one, is one, you know, I was really flexible and I was really cheeky. I sort of, you know, I swapped the placement. I was cheeky to the course leaders. I was cheeky, but not, you know, respectful. But I just kind of asked. I say to my kids all the time, if you don't ask, you don't get.
I believe in that one.
Yeah, I really do believe in that. And the other point was, yeah, I know the other point. The person that was working in the office next to me was a series producer called Daniel Lux. And Daniel Lux is now the MD of CPL Productions. And so my point is, the people that you meet now, at whatever stage of your career you are in, they are part of your network. They will remain part of your network. And if you do a good job, you know, I went off, so I know I'm taking ages saying all this. So after that runner job, I ended up staying with that department. That department moved to Manchester, and I actually moved to Manchester for 3.5 years. And I went from runner, and I kind of climbed the ranks to assistant producer, and I worked on shows like Rough Guide. There was a show called Reportage. I did a bit of you know, on-screen reporting and decided that is not for me. I felt, I tell you why, because I love the journalism side. I love kind of setting up the interviews, you know, finding the contributors, doing all of that. But then you had to do a piece to camera, at which point I was like, God, where's the brush and where's my lipstick? And I just thought, and it made me feel really kind of anxious. And I thought, oh, no, I really don't want to be more worried about, this is just my preference, but I suddenly was more worried about what I looked like, you know, so I thought, no, maybe, you know what, behind the camera is better for you. So I was at the BBC. I actually became staff, because back then they used to make you staff.
Yeah.
Clearly, I'm aware that this is a different landscape now. But I then came back down to London to become a freelancer, and then I became a freelancer PD, a freelancer series producer, and then went to the BBC and worked in factual commissioning as a genre executive, kind of working with the indies and with in-house, helping kind of manage that whole kind of pitching cycle. Then I went to Shine, and it was at Shine actually, which is in 2000, I have to really think about this now. In 2004, I joined the world of talent. So I went there as a creative exec, and part of my role was I needed to bring in a head of entertainment. Anyway, and I had to bring in various people, and that's where I got involved in talent. And me, it felt really natural, because as a series producer, as a PD, you know, all the way through the ranks, you are working with the person who's kind of on the rung below you. And you know, as you rise, anyone that you've worked with that's good, you're like, oh, great, you know, well, I've been promoted. Can I recommend this person? Can I recommend that person? And that's, you know, so I really like that sort of nurturing side of those roles. Yeah, and basically I finally got to CPL in, I can really do my maths now, I think 2012, as a talent exec, and then became head of talent, and then also joined Arrow a year or two later after that. And my role as Lauren's is basically to meet people, is to work with the execs, to work with the creative directors, to bring in the right people to make our shows, and to create as many opportunities as we can for kind of, you know, rising talent.
Absolutely.
Both companies, I'm really lucky because we have a training budget. So you know, I know that the broadcasters are good at this. I know that ITV is good at this. I know that the BBC are, but it is difficult for a lot of indies to offer training, but we do it. So, you know, we're a member of the Indie Training Fund, and we offer in-house training. You know, we send people on courses because we're aware, you know, for the freelance community, it's hard to kind of get that training unless you kind of dip your hands in your pockets.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good overview of me.
That's amazing. It's very impressive, Dawn. Very impressive.
I'm quite tired. Oh, the other thing that I'm passionate about is writing. So I am writing a book right now. And I mention that because it's, you know, in this crazy time, I know people are kind of really, you know, really worried about the industry, and they're worried about being freelance. But what I have been really impressed by, I was a Women in Film and Television mentee for 2019, and I've been looking at my kind of cohort, and, you know, people are reinventing themselves. They are suddenly kind of, you know, becoming trainers. They are, you know, they're running edit producing courses, they're doing, you know, comedy writing courses, you know, and they're doing all of this kind of off their own backs to try and kind of generate income and just reinvent themselves a bit. So if you've got a novel in you, now's the time to write it.
Thanks, Dawn. And I suppose in terms of picking up on kind of it being a freelance world, again, if that, just to kind of let you all know, some of you will be working in the field and the industry, some of you will be just about to kind of start out, and I think it's really great for you to kind of go into this crazy industry, super exciting industry, but crazy industry in terms of the fact that it's not your regular kind of 9 till 5, you go into an office and, you know, you work those kind of hours and then you go home. The TV and the landscape of television is slightly different to that sort of setup. And again, I sort of wish moving into the industry when I first started, that I sort of knew what freelance meant, what I needed to prepare myself for, because as Dawn was saying, that of course at the moment it's a, you know, concerning time for people in terms of work and you know, hoping that television, you know, rest assured television, everyone watches it, everyone has an interest in it, and people enjoy this, you know, the shows we make, and we're, you know, striving hard to keep that absolutely going. And you know, it's being freelance in itself is kind of, you know, it has its concerns when you're kind of constantly sort of networking and moving from show to show. But just to let you know, for those who aren't necessarily aware of the kind of what, you know, the nature of being a freelancer is, I did it for 12 years up until last year, so I'm very, very familiar with how it works. But I mean, as Dawn did say, and rightfully so, keeping hold of your family as you move up the ladder is crucial, because they're the ones that will get you your kind of next job. As you know, when I started running, it was my producers on, I think I helped out on a game show, and I always stayed in touch with the casting producers on that show, who then managed in 2 weeks' time to get me another job at another company that they'd moved on to. So being freelance is being flexible. It's moving around companies. I've worked at ITV, I've worked at Endemol, I've worked at the BBC on, you know, various entertainment shows over the years. So you know, you might have a 3-month contract or a 7-month contract, and then you might go and do a 2-week contract, and so it's up. But sort of going to that now, I wouldn't have changed anything, because I loved the nature of that flexibility. I love the nature of meeting so many people, and TV people are the best people. They really are. They're honestly the most amazing friends I've met along the way, and colleagues I've met along the way, and really kind of inspiring people. Yeah, so I enjoyed that nature and that setup. But saying that, it's not for everyone. And I know people that, you know, started and then decided they didn't want that and wanted to go and seek out a little bit of a more of a 9 to 5 or something. It wasn't quite, you know, they didn't like going away, you know, 9 weeks on Love Island or a huge Britain's Got Talent audition tour for months on end, you know, so it wasn't for them, but it's not for everyone, but it certainly was for me. I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And it is super, super exciting, but it's just to going into that knowing, because I didn't know that when I first got into it. So
brilliant. So look, it's just gone past. So we thought we would go over to the Q&A now. So what I suggest is, so far there's 10 questions up. So I think, why don't we just flip-flop it? So if I take the first one, Lauren, and then you take the second one, and if we've got anything to add from either of them, you can join in. Okay, so the first question was, you were wondering if you had any advice on how to land your first entry-level position in TV. What is the best way of getting your CV through the system to be reviewed? HR. So, I mean, Lauren and I will both be looking at, honestly, a lot of CVs every day.
A lot.
At the top, you know, so what's great now is most, not all, but most companies have a talent team. So, you know, if you go on their website, you will see who the talent manager, it might be head of talent, it might be a talent exec, you know, or they may have, please send CVs here, but they normally will signpost where you should send your CVs. One thing I will say, I think it's great to be thorough and tenacious, but sometimes I'll receive a CV directly. My talent manager will receive a CV directly. And then it will go to a couple of execs and the creative directors, and then they all come back to me. So just bear that in mind, you know, and it's fine. You kind of go, okay, yeah, if you send it to a couple of places, but by the time I get it for the 4th time, I'm a bit like, okay, you know, so just be sensible with that, because, you know, the great thing about the talent team is it is our job. It is our job to get your CVs. The other thing is apply for jobs. You know, we advertise our roles. We do. So in a number of places I often do shout outs. I get creative access to do shout outs if we've got roles coming up. We advertise on Talent Manager, on various Facebook groups. So do apply, but make sure you meet the criteria, because the trouble is it is competitive. So if it says you need to be 25 and have a driving license, you need to be 25 and have a driving license, I'm afraid. You know, unfortunately, I'm not in a position to go, oh, all right, then you're 18, fine, because it's there is production criteria, and that's why we've put it in there. Yeah, make sure it's clear, make sure your CV is clear, make sure there are no typos. I know it sounds obvious, but it does put people off. I like to see the CVs in chronological order so that they're really easy to read. Your most recent experience first. I don't know what Lauren thinks about this, but I do quite like that kind of selling few, you know, couple of lines at the top, who you are, what you're doing, the role you're doing, or if you're, you know, trying to break into the industry, what area you're interested in.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Yeah, and any kind of skills, education and skills. You know, I am very interested to know if you can shoot, if you can use Final Cut Pro, if you can drive, you know, any of those kind of skills are really good to see clearly. Anything to add to that, Lauren?
No, I mean, with CVs, what I would say, I suppose, just quickly, because I am aware of time, and I know we could go on about CVs for quite a while, but CVs are completely subjective, you know, but what I would say is that a television CV is quite different to CVs you might have in other industries. So the layout of them are, you know, slightly different. They're, you know, less, we're sort of, a CV is your selling point. It's who you are. We get CVs into us inundated when we advertise for jobs. So your CV is all about you, and it needs to stand out, because although we do meet a lot of freelancers, and I absolutely make it my priority to meet new talent. For ITV, it's super important weekly that we do meet those people, but we haven't met everyone. So your CV really should stand out. It should be unique, and it should be not wordy in any way. Bullet points are always good, and it should stand out. A use of colour is always good. And I'm always a fan of, again, if you've got space to do it, when you go sort of up to series producer level, you probably won't be able to put this on, but when you're starting out, your sort of interests, and we don't expect you to have tons and tons of credits on your CV when you're starting out. But what is interesting is that you're trying to break into the industry. What you could put on there is, if you're working at your local supermarket or your local cinema, or you're working for, you go and work for, Glastonbury, helping out, or festivals in the summertime or whatever. It just shows you're employable, and it shows that you are working, but your passion is TV, or your other interest could be like you're a keen writer or historian or whatever, and they're always good nuggets of information for good talking points in interviews as well. Sorry, I know I rambled on there. Sorry, Dawn.
That's good. Do you want me to read the next question and you answer it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, what's the question?
Do you have any tips for introverted people like me who want to get into TV but want to make a great impression in the workplace and when networking? And that's Anisha asked that.
Of course. I think, television, there's room for every type of personality in television. Yes, I work in the entertainment department, Dawn makes other, but that's what's so wonderful about the industry. You don't have to be, a musical theatre ex-performer or whatever it is to be really skilled at what you do. Some people are more kind of like, you like to think, and people work in completely different ways, and that's what makes up a great team. If everybody was, sort of shouting from the rooftops or wanting to be heard, it wouldn't necessarily work in a team. So the beauty of the team is we do have really large teams in our entertainment shows. I know maybe documentary and things is slightly different, but in our entertainment department we do have a real kind of mix of people, and everyone's got their strengths, which they bring to the team and they bring to the show. So introvert, extrovert, who's to say who's got the better ideas? You could both have equally great ideas, and you'll just demonstrate them in different ways. So there's absolutely room for that in a team, which is what makes it so special.
And the only thing I'd add to that is, if you're going to an interview, just do your research. Make sure you're clued up, and because the most sort of compelling thing is to be enthusiastic and passionate. Now, you don't have to kind of turn up the volume and be all jazz hands about it, but if you really love what that company does and you really want to work on that show, that enthusiasm will show and it will shine through, and that research will show through. So just bear that in mind. Funny enough, this came up when I was doing my mentoring scheme last year, and there's an awful lot of people in TV who are what we call learned extroverts. So where naturally, you might be surprised, but I'm somebody that to kind of recoup, I like to sort of sit and read quietly, and that apparently means that I'm actually more of a learned extrovert than a big extrovert, which I was quite surprised about. But so actually, yeah, and it's true what Lauren says, we need different types of people. Just imagine if everyone was complete kind of loudmouth, it'd be a nightmare.
Yeah, no, it wouldn't work.
It wouldn't work. And we need, we need people with different skill sets. So we need people who are brilliant at ideas. We need people who are brilliant at, the attention to detail, the logistics. So yeah, there's room for lots of people. And when you're networking, I mean, one thing that came up on our mentoring scheme was basically, practice. So practice with your friends, have your little elevator pitch ready. Hi, my name's Dawn Beresford. Know what it is that you need to get out in the space of 2 lines. I'm a researcher and, you know, I'm really passionate about specialist factual. Because actually, if you just have that little line that you rehearse, then you won't kind of be sort of stood in the corner thinking, please don't look at me. So that's quite a good thing to do.
And we tend to be quite friendly people, so we're quite good at the conversations, so don't be afraid, it's all right. It's all right to ask those questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. I have that's one for me, so I'll come back to that one. So another one for you, Dawn. I want to say thank you for this opportunity. So thank you, Peter. Any advice for international students, graduates who want to start a TV production career here?
Good. It's a good question. So I'm sure you've got this as well now. So you have to be legally able to work in the country. So I know now that you can't work on a student visa. I mean, who knows what's going to happen with the EU. So currently, obviously, if you're a member of the EU, that's no problem. If you've got a British passport, that's no problem. But I do know now that you have to kind of show your credentials before you can kind of sign your contract, if you like. So there is a bit more sort of tightening up. And I know that we've been asked before if we could sponsor people, and you know, the whole kind of area of sponsorship is difficult because I think the rules are, and you know, I'm not a lawyer, so, and I'm speaking off the top of my head, but you know, you have to be providing a service that nobody else can provide, or you know, bringing something to the table that we can't get from anybody else. So you definitely need to kind of check your status in terms of your passport and if you're on a student visa. What do I think though? However, we make both companies, we make shows abroad. We know we do kind of foreign filming. Well, we did. Obviously right now it's a little more tricky. But so that's also, if you know, again, do your research. So if there's a company that kind of makes shows abroad, or you know, a place where you speak the language, you know, or you know, they seem to have a special connection and you have a specialism in that area, then that's a good way to reach out. It may be that you could be a fixer, you could provide some kind of specialism that actually we wouldn't have otherwise. Anything to add to that, Lauren?
No, I was going to go on to the next question, if that's the right
Okay,
one.
yeah.
Cool, so I'm just going to reply to Sophie Brown, who's also a Brit School MT graduate. So, hey, Sophie. How and when did you make the transition from freelance assisting to a full-time producer role? That's the step you're that you're finding challenging. Well, in terms of my editorial background, I was always freelance. So I was a freelancer, you know, running roles, researcher roles, AP roles, producer role. So I was always networking, and you know, the more people you meet, it's the easier it kind of gets, the higher you, I suppose, go up because you know more people. So that's a kind of a natural thing. But I was always in the freelance kind of market, as it were. But in terms of kind of my transition into my job now, if that's what you're asking, I just kept an eye on the ITV jobs website and the ITV careers website, so do make sure you check those regularly, and it was an opportunity that came up for the talent manager role, which I'm doing now, which I was always really passionate about. I knew a whole load of freelancers from my 12-15 year career, so it felt, like Dawn said at the very beginning, it felt like a real natural fit for me, and it was just for me personally wanting to have something full-time, and it was just where I got to in my personal life that I wanted to do, and I could use my skills that I've learned in the industry to really put them to good use in the talent world. So hopefully that's kind of answered your question there. And you were asking if you want to apply for TV runner roles, as current experiences mostly in theatre. Great, that's fine. Your skills will absolutely be transferable. And when you're starting out, having a career in theatre, you're still going to be, surrounding yourself with creative people and, and like-minded people. So a lot of those skills we'll be able to put into TV, especially in casting. I worked in as a casting producer for many years. That's sort of what my background's in. And I would meet runners and researchers who were from a theatre background. And it was brilliant. I hired them on my, I did big sort of West End type shows, singing shows, entertainment shows, like All Together Now, and, Britain's Got Talent, X Factor, all of those shows. And they knew so many people that they could bring in and sort of, get involved in the show, that it was fabulous, and it was a breath of fresh air. So your skills will be transferable, especially from a theatre background. So yes, and company, we're still, looking for people as we speak. I've had bookings come in this week, and things are kind of still sort of, the wheels are still turning. So yes, thank you for your question, Sophie.
So I'm going to jump ahead to, in terms of getting freelance gigs, do you have any advice on which websites and resources to keep an eye on? And then also there was a question after, would you recommend using LinkedIn to get jobs or experiences? It's external jobs. So yes, I mean, basically, like I said earlier, we do advertise all of our roles. And some companies advertise them on their websites. Lots of them advertise on Talent Bases, on Talent Manager, on all of the Facebook groups. So there are runner groups, there are production coordinator groups, there are people who like TV, so yes, do look at all of those places. If the same job is advertised in lots of places, you don't need to advertise in all of them. So just choose one. So because we only need to see your CV once. So I'm a great believer that you don't need to pay as a freelancer. You just need to upload your CV. I will, sometimes we will do searches, because if we're looking like for particular show credits, program credits, so I might search that way. But I will always advertise, because actually it's the quickest way to know who's available when.
Absolutely. Yeah.
LinkedIn, I'm glad you brought LinkedIn up, Safia. I have got a colleague who has just gone, I suppose I better not name where they've gone actually, but I had a colleague who was a development producer for me at CPL, and somebody reached out to her on LinkedIn, and basically she answered the shout out and ended up having an interview, and has gone to work for a big studio and got a massive 20% salary hike also. Now, it was a fantastic opportunity for her, and it was brilliant, and I just thought that is really what a lesson to us all, because if she hadn't said hi, hadn't replied to that shout out, then she wouldn't be sitting where she is now. So yeah, they're my tips.
Yeah, and again, we at ITV, we always advertise our jobs as well, just so everyone is aware. Talent Manager is our main sort of go-to. We put all of our kind of jobs on there, and in terms of our kind of our freelance editorial roles, and on the Facebook runner groups and people who know people on TV, those groups as well is where we advertise. But for more kind of staff, or if it's kind of I'm just talking about entertainment, so our department. But ITV jobs, as I mentioned earlier, is definitely worthwhile keeping an eye out for, because sometimes more permanent jobs come up on there, and slightly different kind of to editorial freelance roles. And we also have our social medias as well. We do post opportunities on there as well, for our kind of runner talent pools and work experience talent pools, which open throughout the year. So that's ITV Loves Talent. So do, be sure to check those out as well.
And also Creative Access, obviously, they have a host of internships and roles that they kind of put out as well. So yeah, do check for opportunities that they're advertising as well.
Our lovely department runner who recently started at the end of last year was through Creative Access. So she was a fabulous candidate for the job. So yeah, very excited to have her on board.
Cool. Now I noticed, I don't know if if you've got any advice about screenwriters, Lauren. So I see Rory's written, what advice can you offer aspiring screenwriters on getting your scripts in front of the right people? What's ITV's policy on that, out of interest? Because lots of companies don't take unsolicited scripts, unfortunately.
Yeah, again, it's not really our department, so I'd have to sort of double check in terms of the broader ITV kind of policy, but we don't crew up for screenwriters in our department, but it's something that we kind of have to sort of double check on.
I mean, yeah, we don't take unsolicited scripts, and when we're looking for writers, so when we've done scripted at CPL, we will go to agents. So we will go to independent, we will go to, you know, Curtis Brown, you know, we'll kind of go to the agents and say, right, we've got this project. If we haven't got a writer in mind, then we'll kind of say, you know, we need somebody who's, I don't know, can write this type of show. So we often, so trying to get an agent. I think most screenwriters have agents. So now, who was I going to say that? It will come back to me, because there's a really, really, really good. In fact, if you write to me, we'll do email addresses. There is a really good kind of writing scheme. I don't know how far down the line you are, but there is a really good writing scheme. And I know the BBC do a writer's room as well, actually, for aspiring writers, when I think about it. And what's the other one that they're working with Channel 4 at the moment? I will think about it. It will come to me.
Okay, I'm very aware of the time, but rest assured you will be given our emails if we haven't got back to your questions, because I know they're coming in thick and fast, and I know we do like to chat. So we will give you our email addresses, and you can absolutely email the team as well, and we come back to you that way. But I think we've got time for a couple more. I think there's a couple of questions about what kind of talent teams do and the difference between a talent team and an ordinary HR office. I can quickly answer that for you. The talent teams of what we do, as I can speak for our department, we solely look at the freelance kind of world. HR tend to deal with kind of, you know, more staff and longer contracts and things like that. And they sort of, deal with other kind of queries and questions that sort of come in. They're sort of handling our, you know, the furlough schemes at the moment and things like that. In a talent team, we really do, Dawn might be slightly different, but and each company might be slightly different, but we solely look for the kind of the freelance talent to hire and put on our shows, who then sort of move around the department.
And it's similar in the two independent companies I work with. So I work with a legal and HR person at CPL. So if I've got any kind of queries to do with contract lengths or anything like that, then I'll always kind of, you know, chat with him, Dieter. And my talent manager at Arrow is actually doing her HR training, because she's really interested in that, because there inevitably there can be kind of crossover, because if anyone's got any worries
together. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And if anyone's got any worries or concerns, quite often we will know first. So then, you know, if we need to kind of refer things upwards, we'll do that. So but I think HR is more the kind of the nuts and bolts of contracts, maternity leave, paternity leave, you know, the sort of statutory rights around contracting, if you like, whereas we're more the, you know, finding the people to make the shows.
And just go back to Nikki's question, talking about ITV talent team places to find people. Does that mainly apply to backstage off screen roles? The answer to that is yes. We don't source online sort of people looking for presenter roles and things like that. It's all the kind of backstage editorial talent we look for.
Okay, I'm going to read this one. I suffer from a disability that means I can't stand or work for long periods of time. Do you know any other starter roles that could be slightly less physical? So all workplaces will, you know, be willing and open and should basically work with you to find a way that you can do the role that you want to, as opposed to finding a role, you know, as the other way round. So I've worked with somebody who had a disability that she was a PD, but it meant that she couldn't, she was a shooting PD, but she couldn't shoot and hold the camera for very, very long periods of time. But basically, the production company that she was worked with worked really hard at kind of putting the right support team around her and kind of drawing up the schedule that would work for her, and, you know, giving plenty of breaks and stuff like that. So I would implore you to look at it that way and kind of go, okay, well, this is the role that I want to do. What is the thing that you feel passionate about? And, you know, and let the talent teams talk to you about how they can enable you to do that.
Yeah. And as Dawn said, there's always something, you know, kind of in place in terms of the role to be adapted to make sure it works for both you, and that you're confident on the production. And, you know, you have that, it's a dialogue, and if you don't, you need to say it, you need to tell someone. This is a big one, because some people maybe shy away from kind of telling people, or but if we need to know in the talent team, or the production managers need to know, and we, you know, it kind of, once it's vocalized, things can be put in place to make sure it works for both of you.
Cool. And we're not naive about, we know obviously representation of disabled people is pretty poor in the arts. I mean, not pretty poor, very, very poor. But I think there is definitely a kind of willingness now, and people are, you know, much more kind of, you know, open and aware that actually, you know what, yeah, they need to pull their fingers out, basically. We can't just say, oh, you know, it's not possible.
It's really important. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. What changes can we prepare for and expect for talent and roles in the industry after COVID and through lockdown?
Oh, right. Well, I suppose with, you know, there's a lot of still, you know, uncertainty with COVID. We don't have, you know, I can't promise to have all the answers for that, but what I will say is that you know, there are still productions happening and in place, and as I said earlier, bookings are still sort of coming through. We just need to ensure, and you know, ITV are great at this, are just ensuring that it's safe. That is the main priority of anyone we employ to work with us, that measures are in place, which, you know, that for each production, depending on the demand of the production, for the roles. But as I say, you know, things are sort of still ticking over, if it's safe to do so. So yeah, and I just think, you know, people still want to watch TV. We all still want it and need it in our lives. So you know, we are sort of doing our utmost just to make sure that you know, making television is still our utmost priority in a safe way, according to the, you know, the government laws.
Yeah, and yeah, same here. So at CPL, we are protocol crazy, quite frankly. There's a big health and safety briefing going on right now for a shoot that they've got happening next week. You know, we exactly where we can film safely, we have continued. Over at Arrow, they have been incredibly creative at coming up with incredible solutions actually to filming contributors abroad. In America, we've got these remote cameras that are literally being directed from directors sitting at home, you know, and we're putting training around that. How do you interview contributors remotely and get that same kind of response? And, you know,
remarkable, isn't it, Dawn?
Oh, it's really, honestly, it's amazing what can be done. So no doubt it's true. Yes, it is impacting roles, and it will impact us for a while until we get vaccine, I presume. But dare I use the cliche, the show must go on, you know.
It's true. It's true.
Know, we want to make shows.
Television, as producers and as people, we are very adaptable. So
Yeah,
you see a lot of that happening now. So
exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
But
now look, I'm aware we've got 1 minute left, and I'm really worried we're going to get chucked off. And if we don't get a chance to do it now, we Josie and the team have our email addresses, so they can share those with you guys, and do, you know, and do, for me, I'll have 2 email addresses. So if you've got a documentary specialist factual question, send it to me at Arrow. And if you've got more of an entertainment studio, comedy, factual entertainment question, please send it to me at CPL.
And that's the same for us. We've got a main inbox where we'll answer, you know, your questions, CV advice, where, you know, we do have someone solely looking at that. So that's itvlovestalent@itv.com. So please, by all means, if you haven't got around to your question, there's been such amazing questions, so do send them in to us if entertainment is your thing and what you want to kind of pursue. Absolutely get in touch. But as we say, the Josie and the guys will send that on to you all.
Yeah, brilliant. So just to say, lovely to talk to you all. Sorry we don't get to see you.
I know.
It's a shame we don't get to see you, but yeah, it's really good to sort of, you know, pass over some pearls of wisdom, hopefully.
We hope it was of use.
Yeah, great.
Cool. Thank you, Dawn and Lauren. Can everyone hear me, by the way?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for joining us today and imparting your wisdom on getting into TV with everyone. I hope everyone found that of use. I'm sorry we couldn't get on to, you know, the rest of the questions. There were many, so I'm guessing everyone's quite curious about how to get into the industry. But like you've said, you're available for chat, and so are we as well. We also host CV clinics. If you guys want to have your CV checked, we'll put the email for that somewhere as well. Just a few things. Make sure you follow us and stay in touch. If you're not registered with us, please do so. And also follow our social media handles. And also, following what we've spoken about today, we have 2 new opportunities for those who want to get into TV. First of all, Magic Light are looking for a production coordinator. If you're interested in that, do email me at vanessa@creativeaccess.org.uk. I'll add that in. And if you're interested in that, do let me know and I can send forward the spec. Secondly, ITV Possessed in Manchester are hosting a Zoom event, which is like a networking event for people to get involved in their future productions. Details of that will be available soon, but do check up on our website for our opportunities page. We'll be able to put that out there. But yes, do keep in touch. Let me put my email address. Hold on, sorry.
And while she's doing that, can I say we have got a shout out with Creative Access right now for runners based in Manchester. So do check their Facebook page because that's up as well. We need lots of runners.
Yes. All right. Thank you, guys.
I'm going to pop our email address into the chat section now for you all.
Oh, go on then. Me too. Come on then. Go.
There we go.
Okay, I've got 2, so it will take me a while.
I'm sure everyone's waiting patiently.
Yeah, but thank you all again so much for tuning in.
Yes, thank you.
And I'm going to say, I apologise in advance if it takes me a while to get back to you because I'm really busy. So don't be offended if it takes me a while. But do still email me and I will get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah, and that goes the same for me. We are super busy, but as we say, we've got someone solely looking at that inbox. So rest assured, we will get back to you.
Yeah, I haven't got someone solely looking at my inbox. That solely person is me.
Yeah,
so, yeah.
She comes back next week. So yeah.
1 second. Okay. I'm like doubling up on sending emails because I think it's being sent to just us. And so some people
I thought it's
okay.
One.
As it says all panelists, so it's between us, so I can see it.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. I've resent it again. Everyone can see it now, so it's okay.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
See you all. Yeah.
Thank you,
Take
everyone.
care. All right. Thanks, Vanessa.
Bye.
Thanks, Lauren. Bye. Bye. Bye.